Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests, to the meeting of online presenters of Virtual Toastmasters Club. I'm Sergeant at Arms, Dr. Sunny. I hope that you are enjoying your day. Guests, please note that to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches. However, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, we welcome you to apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by our club members. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it displays your name and role. Hover over your video, right-click, and select Rename. Remember, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. As a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we record the meeting. Your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Before I go to my next step, I just wanted to say this Saturday I celebrated a birthday. So if you can, show me some emoji love, everybody. It was my birthday and I enjoyed the weekend very much. And I also enjoyed Valentine's Day the day before. And now, please help me welcome our president, our club president on this President's Day, Marianne Grady. Welcome, Marianne.
Well, thank you, Sunny. I'm so happy to see everybody. We have a little bit of a light crowd tonight, but that won't stop us from having a good time. So I am thrilled to be here, and we have in the United States here we have President's Day, and President's Day officially Washington's birthday is a holiday in the United States celebrated on the third Monday of February to honor all persons who served in the office of President of the United States. So that is a big day. We have a lot of presidents to celebrate, and I think most people are really generally appreciative of the day off because a lot of people have the day off. So with that, I'm going to just let you all know that next week, we are doing a meeting on parliamentary procedure, which is kind of the rules of how we do things. And I don't know that everybody truly understands why the meetings are set up the way they are and why we do things the way they are. But if you're a Toastmaster, this is going to be a great meeting for you to learn all of those things. So please sign on next week and make sure that you're here with us. Now, I will say that we have an excellent Toastmaster of the evening tonight, Mr. Graham Carnes, DTM. Please come up to the virtual microphone and begin our meeting.
Thank you, Madam President. Yay, well done. Hello, everybody. My name, as Marianne has just mentioned, is Graham Cairns, and I am your Toastmaster for today. I've been a member of this club, well, since it chartered. I've been a member of Toastmasters on and off for 40 years, and I enjoy every Toastmasters meeting that I go to. Partly because I learn something new at every meeting, and partly because it's always a juggling act. It's a bit like, juggling with baby kittens and babies and chainsaws all at the same time. On the subject of juggling, we have some changes that we have to make to the agenda tonight. One of them, if you're still operating on the older agenda, then you will probably have 3 or even 4 speakers listed. I think 3. Not going to happen. We've got some apologies coming in tonight. We have apologies, as I understand it, from both Christine and Mahfazer, who are ill. We have not got a speech coming up from Kritika, I don't believe, unless she suddenly magically appears, and I don't think so. Before I go any further, Asil, you're listed as having a speech which is longer than normal. I think it was 13 to 15 minutes. Is that the time that you're looking for? Yes, good. Okay. So You don't have to feel quite so much, Andrew. We do have a 13 to 15-minute speech. Anyway, we'll get to Ursula's speech a little later, but first we should go through some introductions. Before we even get to that, we have the tip of the day, something which this club does, which I really like. Sometimes it's a technical tip, sometimes it's a leadership tip. I'm not entirely sure what it is tonight, but let's find out as we bring us our tip of the day from Joni.
Thank you, Graham. Today, we actually have a very special tip of the day. We were discussing leadership before the meeting, and it's always important as a leader to motivate members who are going above and beyond. And for today, I am going to ask online presenters to assist me in congratulating Asil in completing her level 1 in engaging humor. She came in, she took it by storm. She is doing amazing, and she's going to be giving another speech today on her way to completing level 2. Now, I'm also going to give kudos to our Toastmaster of the day. Now, not only has he completed his level 1, but get this, his level 2 as well. So kudos to our Toastmaster of the day. I can't wait to see what he does for this Toastmasters year. But we're on the way. Well, we're already at the points I do believe to be a distinguished club. We've gone past it thanks to their hard work and contribution. So everybody, again, let's give them a huge round of applause. And what's my tip of the day? Always make sure people feel appreciated whenever they do things. So congratulations.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Joni. And thank you for that certificate. I'm honored and pleased to get that. I have to say, I chose to do all of the speeches in the effective coaching path in this club. And it's much more challenging to do it that way because I can't just sort of decide, oh, look, I've got to give a speech tonight. I'll give it at this club. No, I have to focus. And focus is not something that's real good for me sometimes. All right, let's move on. The theme for tonight's meeting, as chosen by our Vice President Education, is Let's Take a Cruise. And this photo behind me, in fact, was taken on board the Quantum of the Seas, I believe, as we were sailing around Northern Australia. And life is hard. I'm actually back on this same ship in just over a month, this time sailing to Hawaii. Oh, life is really hard sometimes, isn't it? But yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Andrew how his first Disney cruise goes, because as Andrew mentions, Disney cruises are not cheap, but they're supposed to be really cool. Actually, show of hands here if I can. Who here has been on a cruise? Yeah, about half of us. The other half, you've got to do it. I know, I always thought, oh, cruising, oh, God's waiting room, shuffleboard and bingo. No, there is so much more to do. Anyway, we'll get to Let's Take a Cruise a little later. And the related word of the day, because around the outside of a ship is the promenade deck. Promenade is a paved public walk, typically along the seafront at a resort, but I'm not going to do too much about that because our grammarian is going to tell us what she's going to do as grammarian, but also tell us about our word of the day. So, Joni, it's back to you again.
I'm doing 2 roles today, so I'll be the accountant. So I'll be looking out not only for the grammar, but also for our past fillers, ers, ahs, and duplicated words. As a grammarian, I'll be noting memorable phrases or ways that we could have included the word of the day, which as stated is promenade. Now, it can be used as a noun or as a verb. The definition as a noun, a paved public walk, typically one along the seafront at a resort. As a verb, to take a leisurely public walk, ride, or drive so as to meet or be seen by others, which means there are 2 chances to use it in a sentence. We strolled along the promenade eating ice cream, or they promenaded along the waterfront. So I look forward to seeing how often we use the word of the day during the course of the meeting. Back to you, Graham.
Thank you, Madam Counter and Grammarian, and I look forward to seeing everybody as they promenade their vocabulary in front of us all. Yes, I know that's probably a little of a stretch, but at least it fits within the general theme. Everything that happens in a Toastmasters meeting, now we're all Toastmasters, so I don't need to tell you, but I should put this on the recording in case anybody is watching this recording later and goes, why is that everything being timed? Everything that happens in a Toastmasters meeting is timed. The reason for that is because if we use too much time, we're stealing somebody else's. Andrei Smolenko is our timekeeper today. Andrei, can you indicate to us how you will be showing us the times throughout the meeting?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day, Graham Carnes. It's very important we be mindful of our own time so other people will be mindful of theirs. And then we're going to have a great meeting and finish it in time. My role as the timer for this evening, yeah, exactly as it says right there, is to time our speeches. We have only one prepared speaker today, and it's a seal. Her speech is slightly longer comparing to the normal Toastmaster speeches, and it will be timed at 13 minutes green, like that, then 14 minutes yellow, and 15 minutes red. Then table topics are timed at 1 minute green, you can wrap up, then 1.5 minutes yellow, and 2 minutes red. And for the only evaluator we're going to have today is 2 to 3 minutes. And I'll put my report in the chat. Back to you, Graham.
Thank you, timekeeper Andre. It's a thankless task, so I'll thank you now while I have the opportunity. Other assistant roles that we have tonight is we have the vote counter and also the general evaluator, David. David, will you be putting the votes into the chat, or are we going to use your handy dandy some other way of doing this?
Yeah, actually, have I mentioned once or twice that I've been working on a mobile app? And I had hoped to show that off this week, but actually when I click vote on the mobile app, it crashes some of the time. Randomly, I'm not quite sure why, but I have been working on an improved version of the web app where we can share a link. One change is that I won't have to send out a link every time. You can vote for speaker, vote for table topics, and then when the evaluations are ready, you can click refresh and those will show up. I'm showing the voting on the left. Here's the vote counters view where we can set up the ballots. And if people were on the agenda, I can basically just confirm that they will be participating. If somebody else is in as a sub, I can pick that person off the list and publish that. And that should show up as soon as I click refresh. So now I've got something else that I can vote for. So that's the idea. I will share the link in the chat as we go along.
Fabulous. The only thing that we will be voting on tonight is, of course, the table topics, because there's only one speaker and only one evaluator. But I mean, we can vote for them if you want to, but yeah. Other assistants tonight, Marianne Grady is our watcher. Marianne, first tell us what you'll be doing as watcher, but I'll also ask you if you can also be the chat monitor, primarily to alert me if there's anything that comes up in the chat. Oh no, chat's now Sunny. I didn't see you there, Sunny. All right, so we'll go with watcher, Marianne.
I will be watching you. And the reason we have a watcher here in our club, because we are online presenters and we want to make sure that when people see us, that we are centered, that we are well lit, and that all the things around us, like our backgrounds, what we're wearing, if we're eating, those things can be distracting to a speaker. So we want to make sure we're doing it right. So I have my eye on you. Back to you, Graham.
Thank you very much, Marianne, our watcher, and our chat monitor for tonight, Sunny Fridge.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day. As chat monitor, I'll keep track of the most helpful, encouraging, and humorous posts throughout the meeting. And when called upon, I'll give a 1-minute report highlighting the most noteworthy items that have been placed in the chat during our meeting. Back to you. And if you need some assistance, I will let you know if there's anything that you should know about.
Excellent. I thank you for that. So a typical Toastmasters meeting is divided into 3 sections. The first section is the speaking session, where people deliver prepared presentations. Then there will be some table topics, which is impromptu speaking, and the evaluations, which are handled by the general evaluator, because everything that happens in Toastmasters is evaluated. There's no point in us sitting here pontificating, promenading our experience if we don't get feedback. And so that will be the role of the general evaluator a little later. And the general evaluator tonight, by the way, is David Carr. But anyway, leaving all of that aside, let's move to the formal presentation section of tonight. And we only have one prepared speech tonight, but that's not a problem because A, it's a longer than normal speech, and B, it's coming from one of the best speakers that this club has got, and that is Asil. So Asil today is going to be presenting from Engaging Humour. This is a level 2 presentation. Level 2 is all about developing your skills. Level 1 is about learning the basic skills. Level 2 is about developing those skills. And this is Learning Your Style, Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. So for a period of 13 to 15 minutes with learning through imitation and progress, will you please welcome Asil?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. What we've got here is an attempt to study and communicate better. Fellow online presenters, in life, we have mentors. Some guide us along life promenade directly, while others we learn from just by watching and listening. Graham has been that kind of mentor to me. Completely accidental, totally unaware, but the best kind. No responsibility on his part, but all the benefits for me. When I hear him speak, I always think, only if I could have 30% of his speaking ability. But to be fair, I'll be generous. I'll give him 33% of my slow pace. In the past, I've watched videos of his evaluation speeches many times, and nowadays, I'll still try to apply what I've learned. In this kind of mentoring, there is no direct interaction, and today, I want to demonstrate it through studying, internalizing, and presenting his last speech. This is my first time having a speech transcribed, memorizing it by heart, and breaking it down into a document, which I've shared in the chat. Please download and look at it. And I've analyzed Graham's speech failure to communicate. If I remember correctly, he finished in almost 7 minutes, and that was him speaking slower than usual. So can you guess how long it will take me to recite his speech word for word? Please type your guess in the chat. So he ended in almost 7 minutes. 11, 13, 15, 10. Okay, great. Now I'll begin his speech. Feel free to time me. I'm also going to time myself. What we've got here is a failure to communicate. Fellow Toastmasters guests, that of course is a line from the 1960s film cool hand look, and it is one of the most recognizable lines in modern cinema. But it is also an interesting example of failure to communicate in itself. What am I talking about? In the table topics session at one of my brick and mortar clubs, the questions revolved around favorite movies. We've all seen that happen in Toastmasters clubs. But the problem is, many of the movies that were mentioned were unfamiliar to a lot of that club's members. Why? Well, about half of the club are migrants from Asia, and those members are simply not as familiar with Hollywood as those of us raised in the West. And the same applies to table topics on song lyrics, TV shows, and well, you get the point. So some of my pop culture references, and those are the go-to staple in my speech presentations, they don't simply recognize in that club. What it means is that when I'm trying to write a presentation for that particular club, I have to modify my speech writing style and also my delivery. It is a formidable challenge, and of course, I don't always get it right. I mean, at one club, I had an evaluator who said she thought I had a bombastic style. Now, I gather that she meant I came on too strong, which is one definition of bombastic. But it might have been that she thought I used too many highfalutin words that I didn't really understand. That's another definition of bombastic. But in any case, it was something of a wake-up call to me. You see, I've always thought that my style was warm and friendly. But if somebody else thinks that I'm being bombastic, that's something I need to think about. And while I know that my pace is sometimes too fast, primarily because I try to put too much information into too short at a time, as a professional news reader, I thought I still remained understandable. But what if I was wrong? What if my communication style, instead of sounding educated, came across know-it-all? What if instead of being a hail fellow, well met, I came across as smarmy? What if what I thought I was communicating was not what was my audience was getting? What if what we've got here is a failure to communicate? Time to hit the pause button then and rethink. For me, the primary function of communication, of speech writing, of all presentation, of training is simple. I want to get ideas from my head into my audience's heart, not just into their heads, but into their hearts, into their guts, into that place inside, deep inside, where ideas take root and become a part of the very essence of the listener. I want my ideas to germinate in their very being, blossoming like a flower. And yeah, there I go again, overcomplicating the issue. Shouldn't I just keep it simple? Stupid. I mean, after all, that's the advice that has stood the test of time. Churchill's famous speech, for example, was a masterclass in simplicity. There is hardly a spare syllable when he says, "We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight them on the landing grounds. We shall fight them in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight them in the hills. We shall never surrender." Simplicity itself. So maybe I should strive for simplicity, but the problem is I genuinely love the language. I'm entranced with the way that it soars and it glides and it dives. How, to paraphrase a Streisand song, its spirits rise and its dance is unrehearsed. To limit myself to the mundane, to the dull, to the plain, seems almost a crime. After all, the Gettysburg Address could just as easily have begun. 87 years ago, we began an experiment, a new type of government. But that doesn't have the same ring as 70 years ago. Our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. That is so much stronger. Besides which, to dumb down my speech writing, to make it bland and easily digestible, sells my audience short. It suggests that you're not smart enough, you're not engaged enough to contextualize, to follow my reasoning, even if the material is challenging. And so, Toastmasters and friends, I've decided I'm not going to change who I am as a speaker. Thank you, Graham. Do not change. I'm not going to start delivering see sport run sport run presentations. And that's a cultural reference if you've never come across with the primers that teach you how to read. But I'm going to deliberately to slow down my pace, particularly when my audience is not Australian and for whom my accent may be a little jarring. I'm going to ensure that there are contextual clues that will reach across cultural barriers. If those shared experience that we use as shorthand in speeches aren't truly shared, then I'll try to provide the background to fill in the gaps. I started a presentation with a slowing down, giving background to cultural memes and trying to be a little less bombastic. So what we have here is an attempt to communicate more effectively. Please put the time, how much time I spent on delivering this speech. Nine. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, what we've got here is an attempt to get into Graham's head, to understand his speech word for word. It really shows how much I've been missing out. But no matter how many times I repeat his words, I will never be Graham. I mean, unless I start wearing his glasses and developing an Australian accent. But to be serious, what truly matters is that we learn from those who inspire us. while still developing our own voice. I hope you checked my document and you saw that I have lots of material to study and learn. That is the kind of mentoring, and we can, well, for English learners, we can apply that every time we hear speeches that inspire us. And isn't it what great mentoring and Toastmasters is all about? Thank you, Graham, for being a great mentor to me and not selling us short, Mr. Toastmaster.
Asil, I am genuinely touched by that. Thank you. Yeah, I am genuinely touched. I thank you. I thought you delivered that speech better than I did, by the way. If I am a mentor in any way, I am genuinely honored to be in that position, because as I think I said at the beginning of this meeting, every Toastmasters meeting that I go to, I learn something, I observe something, I absorb something. And I see your equanimity, your calm, your wry humor as something that I aspire to. So consider yourself one of my mentors as well. Can I get the time on that presentation, Andre, for our evaluator?
Yes, our speaker spoke for 14 minutes and 4 seconds, so she's qualified for voting.
Excellent, excellent. In that case, I know we have only one speaker, but everybody, please place your vote for the best speaker tonight into the chat, because she genuinely deserves that. That was really well done. Thank you, Asil. And again, as I say, I am genuinely touched. Moving on now to our table topics session, and we have a table topics master tonight who is going to be presenting a session that will try to get everybody a chance to speak. To find out how it's going to work, will you please make most welcome Dr. Andrew Byrne. Hey, Andrew. Hey.
Thanks very much, Graham. I had to take my blunting of my mic off. So we are now going to do table topics. And our Vice President of Education said she wanted us to be cruising, or at least relate to that word. You'll see it peppered throughout my speech because I'm about to go on a Disney cruise in March. So we're going to do table topics that will touch on some of these topics. Let's see if this works out or not. I guess it's not. All right, I had in the blank spot a love song theme from the Love Boat, but that's not showing up. What you are seeing is the new Disney ship that I'm going to be on. And what I'm going to do is just get myself okay. If whoever's got control, if you can just put a spotlight on my area so that when I go through the slides, people can see it. Okay. Thank you very much. So what we're going to be doing is going through a couple of questions, and I'm going to ask people to look at the slide and then come up with an answer. Here is the first question. Okay. What's one key to success in your life? Where would you cruise to if you won a free cruise? And of course, why? This question goes to Marianne Grady.
Oh,
Where'd you cruise to if you won a free cruise?
well, I've cruised a lot in my time. I've probably taken 25 or 30 cruises. So I've been cruising for a long time and I love it. I just think it's such a nice way to get a taste of a place and then decide if you'd like to go back and spend a week. So for me, cruising is a wonderful thing. And, way back before I ever cruised, all I thought and all I heard was about how much food there was. And I was like, I do not need to come home 10 pounds heavier. I do not need that. So, but when I finally did take my first cruise, there were so many things to do, things to see, ways to explore the different areas we went to. And I started taking on, what I call pseudo adventures. I started doing things like kayaking and zip lining and things in different parts of the country, or different countries, I should say. So now, as a lot of you know, I had a heart attack and I'm working on getting my walking back up to speed. So what did I do? I booked a cruise. And it's the Rhine Getaway. It's a Viking cruise, which I've never taken a river cruise before. But what I see is that they have walking tours every single day. And I am just like, I got to get a lot better than I am today. So it's been my motivator, and it will definitely help my physical therapy become very successful. So for me, the key to my success is getting out there walking so I can take my Rhine Getaway cruise. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Wonderful. In the beginning, we had a report from our timer, Andy Slamenko, who told us about the timing brackets for table topics. To remind us all what they are, Andre, can you tell us one more time?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Table Topics Master. The brackets for the timing for table topics is 1 to 2 minutes. At 1 minute, you can see green on my screen. Yeah, at 1.5 minutes, you can see yellow, and at 2 minutes, red. And you have about, I think, 15 seconds to wrap up after that. Yeah, that would be it. Back to you, Andrew.
Okay. We have another question. Focus your eyes on your screens. If you found a key to unlock any skill instantly, what would it be and why? For this, let me choose Dr. Sunny Fridge. If you found a key to unlock any skill instantly, what would it be and why while you're taking your cruise?
Whew. If I could find a key to unlock any skill instantly, what would it be and why? If I could unlock the key to fear instantly, that would be amazing. As a presentation coach, believe it or not, I still have my own fear. And actually, one of the things that I want to do on a cruise is to be like Graham. I want to be like Graham, give those presentations fearlessly to all those cruise people who probably have a lot to do, but somehow he manages to engage them. So if I could be fearless and just take on any group when I'm out to sea, on the promenade, or at one of the villages that we may stop on. And by the way, I'd be going to Hawaii. If I could go on my next cruise, I would somehow get a cruise to Hawaii. That's what I would love. But unlocking a skill of being able to, the opposite of fear is also faith. So just having faith and even more confidence in myself than now, that would give me the gift to help others as well. And on a totally unrelated note, but I just have to mention it. Did you know that today is Random Act of Kindness Day? And when I went to the drive-through to get my breakfast this morning and I got to the window, my my breakfast was already paid for. So I just love the fact that somebody has a nice skill of kindness and they put it into action, a small but great thing to do. So have no fear. I will be there one day on a cruise with Graham. Back to you.
Okay, wonderful. Now, we're talking about skills, and people say, what kind of skills are you talking about? And here's a table of 21 skills that will pay you forever if you get these skills squared away. And I'll take a copy of this and put it in the chat for those that want to learn a little bit more about skills. The next question is, tell us about a time when you felt empowered and what you learned from it. And here's a picture of my ship I'll be seeing in March. So this question goes to, tell us about a time when you felt empowered and what you learned from it. David.
Time when I felt empowered, and what did I learn from it? Mr. Topics Master. I guess the thing that comes to mind is a number of years ago when I was a younger writer and had ambitions of being a world famous science fiction writer. I got picked to be part of the Writers of the Future contest circle of winners. Actually got flown out west for a seminar on becoming a science fiction writer. And it was certainly an empowering experience. It was an ego boost experience. There was some complications involved because the Writers of the Future contest was started by a fellow named L. Ron Hubbard. He's probably better known as being the founder of Scientology than he is for being a science fiction writer. That's kind of where he made most of his money, was by founding the Church of Scientology. And as a writer and as a journalist, I couldn't resist asking a few obnoxious questions about Scientology along the way. But I managed to get through it without getting into too much trouble, without facing some of the retribution the critics of Scientology have sometimes been known to face. But it was a great experience, an empowering experience. It didn't turn me into a world famous science fiction writer, but it did give me a very interesting experience. Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you very much, David. Our next question is this. If you could unlock one piece of advice for your younger self, what would it be? If you could unlock one piece of advice for your younger self, what would it be? And this one goes to a seal.
Fellow Toastmasters, if I could unlock one piece of advice for my younger self, what would it be? Well, I always think about that. If I could go back and talk to myself, but in life you cannot do that because you have phases to go through, and those hard, maybe sometimes difficult situations, they only bring us to where we are now. So I think instead of regretting what it didn't work or thinking that it could have been better, now it's a time just to reflect on how it happened. I think now I'm living the most wonderful phase of my life when I'm calm, when I have like everything settled. So I just want to say that to my younger one, just be yourself and enjoy your life, because every phase it meant to be like that. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Thank you.
Okay. Our next question is this. What's one potential everyone should strive to unlock in themselves as you're going down that promenade of life? What's one potential everyone should strive to unlock in themselves? And this one goes to Joni.
I would say, or I used to say, that the one thing we should all strive to unlock was empathy. But somewhere along life, I learned that putting yourself in someone else's shoes, if you wear a different size, just does not work. If you think about promenading down the highway of life, it gets complicated when you do that. So with that said, I'm going to answer the previous question as well, because that's the one I wanted. If I could have met little Joni, I would have said to her, don't take neurotypical advice. There's a phrase that says, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. But we've all lived different life experiences. Now, while it's good to be able to sympathize and understand where someone else is coming from, and knowing that if you were in somebody else's shoes, that's how you would react. You can't actually put those characteristics on others because they might not actually have had the same experience or the same perspective in life. So what do I think everyone should unlock? Introspection, actually. Before I used to say empathy, but now I believe we should all be introspective. It's just like with advice. Never take advice from somebody who you wouldn't want to be, but that also comes with introspection. I saw a good example of the demonstration today. Asil took the parts of Graham, but she made it her own and put on her own presentation. She did start by being inspired by him, but she made that her own. And that, I believe, is an excellent skill to have. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much. The next question is this. If you were to share a talent you've unlocked this year, what would that talent be? And let me just take a look around. I think we've actually spoken to virtually everybody. Is that not correct? Is there anybody that I didn't? Jim Barber. I've not called upon you. You're the last one. So you have many talents. Pick a talent that you want to share and you've unlocked and concentrate on this year, and tell us the impact that that's had on your life.
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master. You said that I have many talents, and I need to point out, I need to observe that depending upon your pronunciation, that could be taken as many talents, M-A-N-Y talents, or I am a man of many talents, M-I-N-I talents. And either one could be appropriate depending upon the person that you asked. For example, if you asked my wife which one it was, she would probably go with the M-I-N-I talents. However, I like to go with other people, other other possibilities that might interpret it as MANY, talents. This is a way of kind of stalling a little bit because looking at the year, we're only 5 or 6 weeks into the year. So what talents have I unlocked this year? The only talent that I can say that I have unlocked in 2025 is one of surviving, one of simply getting through the day and getting to the day after, because I started this year with great plans. I was going to thrive in 25 and all the great things that I was going to accomplish. There's an old phrase, an old saying that man plans and God laughs. I planned the beginning of this year and God had a belly laugh. He has been roaring over what has happened this year. I don't find it funny, but I'm sure that God probably is having a good old time. That's okay, though. I've decided I'm going to get the last laugh. 2025 has only just begun. We've still got a lot of time to make up for it. So the talents that I've unlocked this year haven't been very many. Survival is basically it. But I'm going to unlock some incredible talents in the weeks to come. Thank you, Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barber, Toastmaster Barber. The other thing I want to mention, we gave some kudos and recognition to people in the beginning of the meeting in terms of Graham and in terms of Asil. I also want to call your attention that David was the chief judge on an area contest this past weekend, and I've heard nothing but positive things coming from the people that went to the meeting and said everything went very smoothly. My part of it only was that I recommended David since it was a live meeting in Coral Springs and I could not be there for my club from that area because it would have required travel that I could not do. So I just wanted to extend my appreciation to David, who did his reprisal of chief judge. He's done this many times, but it was very much recognized by the people involved in the contest and the area director that ran the contest. I just want to call everyone's attention to that. We have a real star in our midst. And with that,
I had
unless
to
you
do
want
it in person. That was the disoriented thing. I haven't done it in person in a long time.
yeah, so be that as it may, unless we need to kill more time, we've gone through everybody having had a table topic, and we are ready to move on, Toastmaster of the day, if that's what you would like.
I'm certainly happy with that. That means I don't get a table topic, and that's a good thing. Thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. Although there were a couple in there that I wanted to answer. I have lots of advice that I'd like to give a young Graham, but the thing is, young Graham was too young and stupid to take that advice. So even if I had given myself that advice, I'd probably ignore it. Isn't that true? Still today. All right, time to move on. We've had our... Oh, actually, just before I do go, Jim was talking about, what I love. There's a phrase that man proposes and God disposes, which comes from apparently a 15th century book, but that may be based on Proverbs 19:21. But I love that. Man proposes, God disposes. We can make all the plans we want. We got no say about how they're going to end. John Lennon put it a little more simply when he said, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. I'm still making plans, and I will make plans until the day I die, and then life will stop happening. Well, at least it'll stop happening for me. Time now to move to the evaluation section of the meeting. Everything that happens in Toastmasters, as mentioned, is evaluated. And to find out, to hear an evaluation of Asil's speech, and also to provide an evaluation of the meeting in general, and to hear from our various functionaries, will you please welcome the one, the only, don't swoon, he's only human, as he has already demonstrated tonight. Here's David Carr.
All right. Well, I have a complicated job tonight. Let me look at my long list of evaluators. We're evaluating our long list of speakers. I think it might be Jim Barber, who is being our evaluator tonight. Thank you, Jim.
And thank you, David. Mr. General Evaluator, my fellow Toastmasters, and of course, Asil. Asil, I'm going to let you in on a secret. You are one of my favorite speakers. I love listening to you speak. What I was looking forward to was something that is even better than listening to Asil give a speech, which is to have Asil give a humorous speech, because you have shown a talent, a knack for humor that I didn't really know existed before. But since you've embarked on the humorous speaking path, you've explored your humorous vein. But tonight you did something even more surprising. You gave Graham's speech, the speech that I believe he gave last week, as I recall, and I enjoyed listening to that. And you gave his speech tonight, which was impressive from the beginning, that you memorized the speech. Wow, that was incredible to memorize a speech that somebody else wrote. That was quite an accomplishment. But then the humor really began to get me. For example, Graham described while he was talking that he was going to strive to be a little less bombastic. Bombastic is not a word that I would normally have associated with Asil, but to have you say, I'm going to strive to be a little less bombastic, that was funny. And then, of course, a little bit later, you said that, well, let's see, where did it go? Oh, yes, my accent. My accent is, I want to strive to make my accent a little less jarring. You have one of the most soothing, one of the most pleasant voices I think I have ever heard. You couldn't have a jarring accent if you tried. So this was funny in your interpretation of Graham's speech. That was so well done. So you accomplished giving a tribute to your mentor. That was beautifully done. But you also introduced, I don't know if you intended it or not, but you introduced humor into it by being Graham in ways that you couldn't possibly be Graham. And that was so funny. I've got a couple of suggestions, and they're really trivial little things, but you were a little low in the visual frame. You're better now looking at you, but even then you were just an inch or so lower. If you could get a little bit higher in the visual frame so that we could see more of you, it would be a little bit better. And especially at the begin, there you go, like that. And at the beginning of your presentation, you were, and this is a problem I need to work on as well, so I'm not picking on you. You were solemn. You were concentrating on giving the speech and you forgot to smile. Now, about halfway through it, you started smiling, you started having fun, you started enjoying yourself, and it came through, and that was so nice. But if you're giving a presentation, especially a presentation that isn't intended to be humorous and is humorous in other ways, it's important that we see that you are enjoying yourself. So just a little bit of a smile to let us know that you're happy about this, that you're happy to be here, would be appreciated. But that's about it. I've lost track of the timer. I have no idea. There, I'm over time. What the hey? I'm going to win anyway. This was a fabulous speech, Asil. I'm looking forward to your next humorous presentation. This was a delight. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Let us hear from the person who was in charge of listening to everything, both our grammar as well as our ums and our ahs. Johnny Renee.
Thank you, David. Now, when it came to the word of the day, it was used quite a lot. Asil used it once, Sonny used it once, Andy used it once, I used it, Graham used it, but he got 2 points for starting out with promenading, so I gave him 3. So in total, 8 times as it relates to the word of the day. Everybody knows that when I'm doing it, I always do missed opportunities. Marianne, you had a missed opportunity for taking a promenade on the walking tour on the cruise. That would have fit in so well there. Now, when it comes to language, David, you said sub, and sub can mean a number of things depending on where your mind may want to wander. But I think you meant substitute. So sometimes abbreviations aren't our friends. It may be best to actually say the entire word. When it comes to the use of language, like Jim said, I loved to hear how Asil said bombastic and highfalutin. It was good to hear it in another accent. It's germinate, not germinate, just a bit of assist in grammar. And as it relates to the phrase that was used, man plans, God laughs, Jim, Graham gave an example. Man proposes, God disposes. In Jamaica, we say, when man a plan, God a wipe out, which is basically the same sentiment. When men are planning, God's wiping out. So I loved that use of language today. When it came to us, Andy, I was going to say you lick everybody for six. In Jamaica, cricket. It means that you got so many people with your table topics. So I don't know if I should give you the award as the Wizard of Oz, because other than Andrew, yeah, is a crutch word. And Marianne had a so before. You got David with 3 R's and an Asil with 2 arms, all in table topics. So I'll give you the Wizard of Oz because you created the environment to provide me with a lot of work. Back to you, David.
All right. While Joni was listening, somebody else was watching. Marianne, what did you see tonight?
Well, tonight, of course, as online presenters and an advanced Toastmaster club, most of us are well centered in our little squares. We have nice backgrounds, our online presenter backgrounds for most of us, and very simple, non-distracting ones. Graham used one that's like a theme, and both David and Andre used the blur, which, creates a background that doesn't distract. So I liked all of that. I will note that Jim Barber, when you were doing a SILS evaluation, your notes must be down flat because you're leaning down like this and we're seeing the top of your head. So my suggestion would be to hold them up. See, mine are right up here now, but you really can't see them, but I'm holding them right in front of my face. Let's see, Joni, you're sitting up a little high, so you have the online presenters behind you, but you're blocking it and everyone can't read it. So just a little further down. And Andy, when you were doing your thing before, you kept on moving too high, so the top of your head was cutting off. Other than that, I mean, we all do a great job, and this was an easy job tonight, so thank you.
All
Back
right.
to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
In between the ums and the ahs and the visual razzmatazz, some people were typing in the chat. What was in the chat tonight, Sunny Fridge?
Thank you, Mr. Evaluator. Well, we had quite a few interesting. I said I'd take care of the most helpful, the most encouraging, and noteworthy. Some of the noteworthy were the fact that, as usual, Dr. Andy, he put so many of our conversations in the chat during our pre-meeting. We talked about leadership, and so he was very helpful. He also put something in about writing structure and storytelling, and then he just added in for good measure something about having a hug come our way. So thank you for that. Also, some of the things that I saw, let me see if I can get a couple of the comments up. Let's see here. um Asil wished me a happy birthday. So did Joni. That was encouraging. And then a comment that was humorous was that um, Joni asked, I think it was Graham, was he all up in his feelings? I thought that was a cute little comment. Um, And Marianne was also encouraging. She talked about Asil's speech being beautiful, such a special tribute to Graham. So those were a few of the comments that we could find in the chat, as well as a reminder that we have a great parliamentarian style meeting next week. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Sunny.
Mm-hmm.
Clever maneuver there to arrange that delivery after the yacht counters report. I think you might have gotten a couple in there. And give me some kind of competition. I appreciate that. I think we had a good meeting tonight. It was not as big of a meeting as we might have liked, but it was intimate. The right people were here. I think the only other thing that's left for me to do is to call on the vote counter. Mr. Vote Counter, can you present the votes? Well, yes, I can, as a matter of fact. I can share, this is a lot of razzmatazz for just a couple of votes, or really just one vote to present, but table topics. Well, this is where all the suspense is, because we've already heard from best speaker of the evening, Asil. We've heard from best evaluator of the evening, even though he's apparently a little bit long-winded. But we probably should have given him 15 or 20 minutes to give that evaluation if he wanted it. But best table topics goes to Jim Barber. Oh, hey, he actually gets to win something that is competitive as well. Let me turn this back to our Toastmaster of the day to wrap us up.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I thought tonight was a good meeting too, but probably because the Toastmaster was such a marvel. No, seriously, it was a great meeting. Fairly, what have we got? 9 members here, which is not even a quorum, but everybody who was here did a great job. I thank you, everyone, for your contributions. I mentioned that the timekeeper's a thankless job, so I'm going to thank him again. Andre, thanks for doing that. You do it so well. Good general evaluation from David. The table topics from Andrew were thought-provoking and fun. The R counter and grammarian from Joni. I love the fact that Joni always looks for something a little outside the norm, so thank you for doing that. The chat monitor from Sunny. I thought Sunny's use of a sidebar there to show us what had been in the chat. I thought that was really nice, because we all see the chat going past, but we don't remember those things. Marianne, being watcher is important, particularly in this club, and you pointed out some good things for all of us. Jim, your evaluation was, as always, spectacular, and Asil, I've sent you a private message to say how touched I was with your presentation. I thank you. I don't think I've missed anybody. I think everyone did a fabulous job tonight. And on that note, I will hand control of the meeting back to our president to wrap us up. Marianne, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Graham. And Graham, what a wonderful job you did as our Toastmaster tonight. There's no doubt in my mind that more than a Sil look up to you and learn a lot from you every time we get together. So, thank you for being a member here, because we all just take in so much from you. Now, again, we are going to have our parliamentary procedures meeting. This is an educational session that we're having next week. So it's not our traditional meeting, and I think you'll all learn a lot if you decide to join us that week. And we all have been, well, not all of us, but many of us have been Toastmasters for quite a long time. But I think not all of us understand why we do the things we do. So it would be great to educate ourselves. So please come along. Of course, Joni wants us to sign up for roles in advance. So if you have not done that now, please take a few minutes before you turn your computer off and go to our page and sign up for roles. We are all trying to work towards our own personal goals, and we need to take on roles and do speeches to make sure that we advance as we hope. So with that said, we have no guests tonight, so we do not have to ask around the room. But anyone want to make any comments about the meeting tonight?
question about next week. Do we have roles that we need filled for next week, or is it mostly taken up by the workshop
There-
program?